Okay, so now we are going to work on graphing exponential functions that do have a domain change. So I've decided to use Desmos for this because it's a little easier. Okay, so let's type in y equals, let's do 2 raised to, oops, there we go, 1 divided by x, and see what that looks like. Okay, now you can see why I chose to use Desmos for this. Okay, so there are some very interesting things going on with this graph. First of all, it is literally a composition between a rational function and an exponential function. So you will notice that we do have a bit of a domain change here. If you look, okay, you will notice that there seems to be a vertical asymptote right here. Okay. All right, so that would make perfect sense because we can't divide by a 0, which gives us this. Okay, so if we look at our domain, it seems to be all real numbers except x cannot be 0. Okay, now if we look at our range, okay, this is going to be a little bit more difficult to kind of figure out. So let's get rid of that. Okay, so now if we use Desmos, okay, we have this point right here, which is 0, 0, which is actually not defined, okay, because x cannot equal 0. All right, so even though Desmos says it shows up, it really doesn't, okay? And it also looks like we have a range of y is greater than 0. Now, you got to be careful with some of these graphs because if we zoom in, whoops, okay, there we go. That's a cool thing about Desmos is you can really zoom in. Okay. And we can, it's still telling us that it's there, but we know it's not because we can't divide by 0. Okay? So now, let's just go back to our graph. We can even zoom like this. Okay? Am I making you dizzy yet? Okay. So the way that you look at a graph in the viewing window really does have an effect on your understanding of it. Okay. All right. Let's try another one, right? So I'm going to erase all of this right here. Okay. All right. So now let's go back and let's see if we can actually kind of like, maybe move this around a bit. So let's go parentheses x, what do you think, plus 5? What did that do to our graph? Well, it moved it left 5. Well, let's see if I can play with it some more. Let's go plus 2. Well, that moved everything up 2. Okay, so as the graph becomes more complicated, you might want to lean more on Desmos, but please know that Desmos can be a little bit misleading. From my experiences with domain, okay, I know that x cannot equal -5, but it looks like I have a value at -5 on the graph, but that can't be true because I can't divide by 0. So whenever you look at a graph, you do have to be careful with it. Okay, so I hope this was interesting and helpful to you. Let me know if you need anything else. Okay.